Hello YouTube, BlueMatona here, and welcome to a new episode of Game Guides where we're going to be diving into the starting position for the Roman Brutii faction. It's good to be back. It's good to see everyone again, and I'm really sorry for the long absence for those of you that have been waiting on the next video, and for anyone new to the channel from this video, well, welcome in. It's good to have you. Plan to be making episodes again and starting up this Game Guide series again, so we'll just go ahead and dive right in. Brutii. They're the Green Romans. They're a really strong faction, probably my favorite to play in the game. They have, I would say, the most advantageous position at the beginning. You have two cities, Tarentum and Croton. Tarentum is going to be your much stronger one. It's your capital. Croton is going to be more of like an industrial city. It has mines, which is kind of unique. It's always going to be a bit of a pain, though, because it has a base 15 unrest. So you're always going to have troops stationed there, recruit a lot of town watch, maybe keep taxes lower as the population grows later in the game. But Tarentum, right off the bat, lets you train equites and ships, because it has a port, and that's why it's probably making a lot more money. Croton, on the other hand, does not. You can only train very basic units, probably best here to get a port going right away, and probably the mines as well, to really boost the income you're getting from that city. You start with 4 armies, 2 in the field and 2 in your cities as garrisons. Your faction leader is in Croton. He has a really small force, probably worth pulling him out of the city and using him early game before he dies. He's 52, so you probably won't have him for too long. Bring him out, use him as a good general. Same thing with a small army in Tarentum, and you have just like a pretty solid general with a lot of management. Here in this city. Then in the field, you have your faction heir with a very small force. Again, he's not really good as a commander off the bat. Honestly, if you wanted to use him as like a set governor in Croton with how much influence he has to boost the public order there, you could definitely do that with him and just kind of position him there and use your faction leader and other generals to begin. And then you have Aemilius Brutus. This is going to be your best general. He's young, 31, you're going to have him for a while, great command, good other stats, and he also starts with the biggest army. You have 1 navy as well. It starts right here next to the Tarentum port. It's 3 ships, pretty strategically positioned. You can use it early to ferry troops across here to Apollonia and take the easy city. That's the Senate mission. Or you can use it to ferry troops if you wanted to go attack other places, like if you wanted to go down to Syracuse. Your diplomatic situation is pretty standard. It's the same as all the other Roman countries. You're allied automatically to the 3 of them, with your only enemy is the rebels. You're surrounded by enemies otherwise, though, with Greece and Carthage down here in Africa, and you also have other Greek cities in Macedon across the way here. You got Thrace and other nations that you'll encounter later in the game as you start moving through the Balkans and the Greek Peninsula. Your family situation is actually pretty strong at the start. As I said, you have your Tiberius Brutus faction leader here. He comes with a drill master retinue. It gives movement points to armies and discounts training costs. If you're going to use him as a general in the field, I'd say keep that with him. If you're not, it's probably worth switching to one of your other better generals so that he gets the added movement bonus. Your faction heir, not very good, as I said. Probably best to use him in a governor setting. He does also get movement points and cash gain from looting with Quartermaster, so probably want to change that retinue to someone you're going to use more as a general. Vibius Brutus here, again, really good management, but also a pretty strong general. He's young. I'd probably bring him out in the field, even with all that management. Maybe position him in like a really valuable city that you capture down the road. Like if you go to Africa and you get Carthage, or one of the really valuable cities in Greece. Probably best to use him for that. And then, of course, you have your pure general here, Aemilius Brutus, with the best force. Get him out in the field right away. You also have 5 unmarried daughters to start the game. One is 14 and one's 12, so they're going to be married pretty soon, meaning you get at least a few additional generals within the first few turns of the game. And then you also have a 3-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 10-year-old, so you'll get at least a few more generals kind of down the road as they marry. Finally, you have 1 spy. It's pretty solid. Starts with a couple of traits. You'll want to use him to gain experience. And you have 1 diplomat. So a few points on faction uniqueness. You're a Roman faction, meaning you do have the Senate interaction. So as all the other Roman factions, you start with equal standing. And you're going to want to boost your standing with the Senate to get your guys into more leadership roles. And you can boost your standing with the people by conquering territory and being successful. You do start the game with the Senate mission, take Apollonia. It's great. It's this little city right here. It'll give you a nice 5k income bonus to start the game when you take it. It's very poorly defended, and if you go take it like the first turn of the game, or second turn of the game, They won't have walls built yet, so if you want to ferry troops over right away and grab it as a city, it gives you a good foothold to then start operations over here in Greece and the Balkans. Also, as the Brutii, you do get Roman-specific buildings, like you get the Circus Maximus eventually, you have the ability to build colosseums and train gladiators, and you have your unique temples here as a Roman faction. You got 3 that you can work off of, the Temple of Juno, Mercury, or Mars. The Temple of Juno at the start of the game basically just gives public order bonuses, and up to level 4 they just scale with an additional 10% per level, and then once you get to the top level, level 5, you get a bonus to experience of troops trained in the city, and increase of tradable goods. The Temple of Mercury gives the tradable goods bonus off the bat, and you get more of it every single level up, including public order. Finally, when you get all the way up, you get a little bit of experience and a public health bonus as well. And Mars starts with just a small public order bonus, but every level up you gain experience to units trained in the city. And finally, at the Pantheon, you get the tradable goods and some morale bonus and some other stuff. You can also train the Arcani troops using the Temple of Mars. Basically, the way to view these is Juno is just your if you need public order. Mercury is a good one for heavy trade cities, probably best to build in your early cities, Tarentum and Proton. And then Mars is more your war cities, probably best to build in more territorial settlements where you're going to be training a lot of troops that are close to the front line. Romans also get some unique units that's not necessarily unique to the Brutii, but to the Romans overall. Like you have your incendiary pig units and war dogs, and range units like scorpions and ballistas. You can also build academies. Other factions can as well, but not every single one in the game. The game wants to push you east towards Greece and Macedon to start the game. That's really the desired expansion path of the Brutii, and it's pretty good. It gives you a lot of really strong cities. I turned off Fog of War here so we can see them, like Sparta, Corinth, Athens. Even Thermon is really good. These cities are very, once you kind of make your way through the Greek peninsula, you can defend them really easily as well, because they are obviously on a peninsula but surrounded by water. And then you can use them as a launching point to move over to Rhodes, Crete, and start expanding over here in like what's now modern day Turkey. Also, you get the Statue of Zeus at Olympia monument here, which gives a big population loyalty boost in all settlements once you take Corinth, so probably worth prioritizing pretty early in the game. Finally, Larissa. I would wait to capture the city if I were you. The Macedon faction always builds like a really heavy temple here that gives boosts to ranged units that you can't build yourself. And once you take the city, it could be really worthwhile to then just use it as a training ground for any like onagers or archers or ballistas or other ranged units that you want to train. So wait and give them time to build that temple before you take it, because if you take it too quick, they wouldn't have built it yet, or it'll be a low level. There are a few other expansion paths you can take early game besides jumping right in against Greece and Macedon. First, obviously, take Apollonia, and then also, if you wanted to move up the Adriatic coast, you could. Salona is also rebel-controlled, and way up here, Segesta is rebel-controlled. Probably not worth going all the way up north there. You're just going to put yourself in a border with the Gauls and the German tribes, and the Dacian tribes over here. And it's really hard to defend as it's very far from the rest of your city, so probably not worth wasting a general and an army to go take that. But Salona right here on the coast is actually a valuable city to take. You can eventually build a port. It'll end up being a big trade city for you here on the Adriatic, so I would probably recommend going and taking that off the bat if you can. Finally, a great strategy I recommend in the early game is actually just ignoring Greece and Macedon at first, and moving down south quickly to cut off your fellow Romans, the Scipii. You can go in here and take Syracuse really fast and get Libyum and Carthage eventually. You'll be at war with Carthage, which you don't really need to do off the bat if you don't want to. But these are very valuable cities. Again, very easy to defend. They're going to be great trade hubs. Syracuse grows really quickly because of the grain resource. And once they both have ports, this is a really nice little stretch that you can have here where you don't really need to leave a lot of troops. And you can just let these cities grow and make you money over time. Plus, it cuts off the Scipii, which is pretty good early game, or pretty good in the long term for you, because eventually you're going to have to fight the civil war with the other Roman factions. So for long-term goals, you're going to want to expand over here into Anatolia and eventually Egypt, secure North Africa, take Carthage, and cut off your fellow Scipii, and just do what you can to kind of curtail any expansion that your fellow Romans are able to do. So I think that about wraps it up. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned a lot in this video, and you go and have some great campaigns of the Brutii faction of your own. It's fun to be back, and as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Have a good one.